Hello, and a very warm welcome to the Open Door Show from Property CEO. My name's Ian Child, and once again, I'm on my Todd as the other half of Property CEO, Mr. Richie Clapson, has he's gone on what he tells me is a well-deserved holiday, which I'm not sure about that, but gives me the perfect opportunity to tell you about how we can get some of your life back. And better still, it's only going to take me about half an hour. Bit of a bargain. So, what is Open Door all about? Well, it's your chance to take a dive into the world of small-scale property development. On Open Door, we talk to the movers and the shakers out there, all in the effort to give you the lowdown on what's happening in the world of property. We also take a look at some areas we think could be a good opportunity particularly for new developers to take a look at. And of course, as a property development training company, we also get to see all sorts of things that our students encounter on their journeys. And so the other thing that we like to do is to shine a bit of a light on some of the challenges that can get in the way for a lot of people on their journey, and hopefully share a little insight on how people can overcome them. Now, on this episode, what are we going to do? I want to look at the power of outsourcing and how it can transform not just your results, but also your entire life. So, no bold claims here, but let's see how we get on. First of all, let's have a little think about what we're talking about with outsourcing. So, the first thing to recognize is that time is almost certainly your most valuable asset. Time is a bit of a weird thing because we kind of spend a lot of it, we sort of take it for granted. It's sort of it's given to us. We can't make any more of it. We can't get any of it back. We can't get any less of it either. And no matter how much money you've got, the trappings of success or whatever, at the end of the day, you can't buy any more time, which is why it's the thing that we've come to hear that your common and everyday billionaire values most. And why wouldn't they? They've got all the riches of Croesus. They could spend it on this, that, whatever. But at the end of the day, they can't get any more time. So when their days are up, they're up just the same as the rest of us. It's also been described as the currency of success because, of course, the more successful you are, the more you've got the luxury of being able to make the most out of the time that you have. Most people, I would say, complain that they don't have enough of it. We've all got these busy lives, and isn't it funny how life seems to have got busier with every kind of generation? It's sort of people running around. The world is a very fast moving place. And people always say, it's not enough hours in the day. I mean, how often have you heard that? Yet the reality is that we waste an awful lot of time. And the good news is that with a little help, we can actually get quite a lot of it back. Now, if you're easily offended, I do apologize, but most people, which may include you, are pretty rubbish at managing their time. Just generally, humans aren't that great at managing time. And it's because we do take it for granted. And as a result, we don't really place a value on it because it just happens anyway. So why would you place a value on something that you get for free? Now, outsourcing can help, but it's not the only place to look when it comes to managing your time. But let's start with outsourcing. What exactly is outsourcing? Well, it actually sounds quite attractive. It's getting work done by someone other than you. I mean, what's not to like about that? Now, it doesn't have to be anyone specific. So it could be an agency, could be an employee, friend, or a family member. Doesn't really matter as long as it's not you. So you're paying someone else to do your work instead of you. And that, of course, means that you're free to then work on more important things. And that's pretty important because the whole premise here in terms of working out the best way to spend time, it's an area that we, again, aren't very good at. We tend to gravitate towards the easiest and most pleasurable tasks, not necessarily the most important ones. And also, we tend to get into that trap of, well, it'll take ages to teach somebody else to do it. I might as well do it myself. Or that good old, great old chestnut, I do it better than anybody else. No one else can do it as good as me, therefore I should do it. Well, guess what? Yeah, you'll always be doing that job then. Um, so, and it doesn't matter where it is. It could be what's in terms of the stuff that you're then going to free up. Your important things could be anything. It could be that in business that there's more important tasks in your business. I mean, we've all seen that if we look at through the lens of a property developer, because this outsourcing applies in any walk of life. But if we look at it from property development perspective, there are certain tasks that are important for you to do: talking to agents, building rapport, perhaps signing off on numbers, and doing some of your due diligence. There's other stuff that can be done by other people. And if you're doing it, that means that you're probably looking at fewer deals or building less relationships with agents, et cetera, et cetera. But it doesn't have to be business. It could be literally, I'm going to outsource stuff, so I'm going to spend more time with my family. Because, yeah, let's be honest, that's where perhaps where you get the most value. That's the enjoyable stuff, and that's what you can do. You can have more holidays, more time off. Maybe you want to play Tetris. Perhaps Tetris for you is one of the things that you like doing most in life, and actually you can't get enough Tetris. So I'm going to outsource stuff, and then I'm going to play more Tetris. The important bit is entirely relative to you. It's your choice what you spend the time on. This is not an exercise in telling you what to do with the time once you've freed it up. That is entirely your choice. And you don't even need to let me know what it is you're going to be doing. Now, there's another thing that often comes up with outsourcing is about affordability. And it's kind of understandable, which is if you're going to give work to somebody else, unless you ask really, really nicely, they're unlikely to do it for free, particularly if they don't know you. Yet to see that one come off. No one's asked that quite nice enough to be able to get somebody to do hard labor for free. But of course, so there's a cost for doing it. But as a result, then you're thinking, well, hold on a sec. This is just a kind of money out thing then, isn't it? So I'm getting my time back, but I've actually spent some hard cash. Got hard cash going out, and I've got time coming in. But you can't spend time in Tesco's. They don't accept it. So this doesn't work. This seems like an unfair transaction. And of course, the reality is that is a rather superficial way of looking at it, particularly if you're looking at it from a business perspective. So you can't afford to do it, but you can't afford not to do it. At the end of the day, your business is going to grow and be successful because of the time you spend in it, not because of the time you don't spend in it. So therefore, if you're able to spend more time in it, you're going to be able to get that success more quickly, or at least have more chance of getting the success in the first place. Now, that's not to say that you can, you should outsource absolutely everything and say, Ian, I've now got all my time back. It's costing me £1 million, but here I am, and I've got all the time in the world. So that's probably taking to extreme. So I do appreciate there is a balance to be had here. One of the ways in which you can kind of qualify and quantify that is an example that I often quote with billionaires. So the question I ask is, do people like, the Jeff Bezoses of this world, the Amazon founder, does he mow his own lawn? Because you can kind of work out his hourly rate. If you were to take his, he might actually have a charge for doing public speaking or for doing advice, sort of mentoring or that sort of thing. I don't know if he does, but he's probably got a salary or some sort of income that he gets on an annual basis. You could kind of divide that up by kind of business hours and work out what the cost is. And I'm willing to bet it's not cheap. So in theory, then, if he's sort of sitting on the lawnmower, I'm assuming that he has a lawn that's big enough to have a sit on lawnmower, then a couple of hours on that's not free. He could be earning potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. So he's exchanging, if he does that, he's kind of choosing to basically, the cost of mowing that lawn is in theory a couple $100,000. And you can work out your hourly rate quite easily. The one that I like to do, which is what was done to me rather embarrassingly back in the day, a long time ago now, was the old supermarket one. So it's a question of if we think about the you do the supermarket trip, perhaps a weekly shop at the supermarket, and you get in the car, you make a shopping list, get in the car, you go to the shop, the supermarket. You may be, I don't know how long you spend there putting stuff in the basket, trying to work out where they've hidden everything this week, paying for the thing, and then bringing it back home and unloading it. All of that. Let's just say it takes a couple of hours, maybe 2.5 hours, call it that. And from sort of right from the start to right at the end, to when you're sat back on the sofa watching the telly again, or whatever it is you're doing. And of course, if I asked you what your hourly rate is, you would say to me, well, I don't know. You might not have an hourly rate, but you'd probably better work it out. You'd come up with a number. And I suspect the hourly rate probably wouldn't be £2.50 an hour. Because let's be honest, that's about a quarter of minimum wage-ish. So it's probably not going to be £2.50 an hour. But yeah, of course, that is exactly what you've just valued your own time at. Because, of course, supermarket shopping, you can now pay somebody a fiver, sometimes it's not even that, to do your supermarket shopping for you. They will go, and the supermarket themselves will go and have somebody go around with your shopping list, put it in the trolley, then put it in bags, put it in the back of the van, and deliver it to your front door. So all you've done is perhaps the half-hour shopping list thing at the front end, and put it in the website and kind of pay for it. And you've done the unpacking when the nice man or lady arrives with your shopping and you put everything in the fridge or wherever it is you're going to put it. So you've saved yourself 2 hours at a cost of £5. Therefore, your time is worth £2.50 an hour, no more, no less. And that obviously is a slightly different way to the way people normally value their time. If I was going to hire you to do something for me, whatever your expertise is, you probably wouldn't charge me £2.50 an hour. You charge me a lot more than that. But that is exactly how you're valuing your own time, typically, if that's what you do. And going back to the likes of people like Jeff Bezos and Steve Jobs, of course, nobody paid them a bean when they were sat there in their garages in California, which seems to be the way most successful American businesses are incubated. They weren't making a bean, but they were investing a lot of time and effort in their businesses that then later paid great dividends. So they were focusing on the right thing rather than the wrong thing. So you kind of need to work out what's most important to you, mowing the lawn or being a billionaire. It's a choice. Now, you also need to understand that every hour is equal. So it doesn't actually matter which hour you save. Any hour that you get back, you can put to good use. So you kind of need to think outside the box on this one. It's not, because it's not just about outsourcing kind of business stuff. So if you're watching this from or thinking about this from a property development perspective, or maybe property generally, it's not just about outsourcing your property tasks. If you stumbled across this webinar, I've got absolutely nothing to do with property development, then it's still applicable. Whatever your side hustle is, whatever your business is, then outsourcing, you still need to, it's still relevant, and you still need to think outside the box. And a lot of that kind of outside the box thinking comes in terms of what is it that you can actually outsource. So you can, of course, outsource your, in this case, property business. But you can also outsource your life. How great is that? Have your entire life outsourced. In fact, you can't outsource all of it, which is probably a good thing. You can certainly outsource your day job. And I would, between those three things, you've probably got most bases covered. I pretty much can't outsource sleep. So you're going to have to cover that one. But what I'd like you to do is to be perpetually thinking, can I outsource what I'm about to do? Can I get somebody else to do this for me? So that you avoid that situation where you end up doing jobs on autopilot that could easily be done by someone else. But you're just kind of, it's too much hassle. I could do it. I'll have it done in 5 minutes or in half an hour or whatever. You need to avoid that. So in terms of outsourcing property development business, what is it that you could do? Well, certainly those one-off tasks, things like, when you're setting up and you're creating your brand, maybe you're building a website, getting a logo done, that sort of thing, you can certainly outsource that. That's one of the biggest kind of time drains there is, particularly for people that really kind of fancy themselves as designers. They think, do you know what? I've always wanted to design a website, and here I go. It's like I've got permission, and it becomes they're on a mission, and of course you can never perfect it. So every day you go back to it, you tweak it and everything. It's a black hole for time. So outsource that to somebody else, and get somebody else who's frankly going to be better than you at doing it. Certainly, you can outsource deal sourcing, deal finding. So not necessarily all of it. You're still going to have that qualitative view, but you are able to outsource a lot of the grunt work there, so that you're doing the stuff that adds the most value, and other people have kind of already, because you've trained them how to do it, have kind of whittled the other processes down from your perspective. So they've all the opportunities have gone through your kind of system, and you're only looking now at the good stuff because other people have done the hard work that you were previously doing. I would say for that, getting a virtual assistant, a VA, to do the grunt work is perfect. They can make appointments for you. If you teach them, they can do some of this back office admin, all of the kind of more routine stuff, the stuff that kind of gets in the way when you're a kind of a one person band. Yeah, it's tricky because you there isn't anybody to delegate to. You end up being the person that not only does the really important stuff, but you also make the tea and go out and buy the biscuits when you've run out because you've eaten them all. You can get a virtual assistant to help you with that. Actually, virtual assistants are rubbish when it comes to the whole biscuit thing, because obviously they're potentially in a different continent to you. But biscuits aside, they are really good at getting some of that more routine stuff done. You can also get your VA to do due diligence and research on some of those potential projects. As I said, they're kind of being able to refine your sort of sales funnel for you. So you're just focusing on the stuff that's kind of got the biggest opportunity. So lots of places in property development where you can outsource. In terms of outsourcing your life, likewise, again, this is where people don't really kind of think about it, but there is still, goes back to that point about it doesn't matter. Your business doesn't mind what hour you free up to work on it. It treats them all the same. So I talked about internet grocery shopping. There's a couple of hours a week there. Cleaning the house, I don't know how many hours you spend doing that, or somebody does. Ditto, mowing the lawn. Again, you can kind of work this stuff out. And of course, it might be that somebody else that's in your household does those things, but could they help you in your business if you found somebody else, if you outsource those tasks? And it may sound like luxury. It may seem like, well, I'm employing a gardener and a cleaner. But again, it goes back to that point about how successful do you want your business to be? And I do appreciate there's a balance here of affordability. But again, it's about having that right kind of mindset about making the best use of your time and putting as much time as you can into your business. A famous one is outsourcing taking the kids to school, which everybody normally goes, that's absolutely horrendous. And how on earth could you possibly want to outsource taking the kids to school? But of course, for those people that have a particular car journey to school, then the harsh reality of having perhaps let's just say a female taxi driver take your kids to school. Yeah, in the nicest way, they are better drivers than you are. They do a lot more miles than you do. The kids are far less likely to play up. And of course, how many work out? If you do a school run, how many hours is that? That's a huge amount of time that's spent there. And of course, you could get a bigger taxi and the other kids in the town or whatever, you could, a group of friends, whatever, it could be really cost effective. Needn't cost an absolute fortune. Might end up, get enough of them, work out cheaper than you doing it yourself if there's only two of you in the car doing it. But again, it's not something that most people kind of recoil at that idea. But the reality is that it's arguably safer and it does save you a lot of time. So you need to do the maths and work out kind of how much of a saving you're going to get from these things. So if you're saving 1 hour a week, then that equates to about 7.5 working days that you're going to get back each year. So it may only seem like a little thing that you're getting, but if you think of it in terms of, I don't know how many days, if you've got a job where you get paid leave, where you get annual leave, then obviously if you're saving 1 hour a week and you're getting 7.5 days, working days back, well, many people only get maybe what would you get, 15, 20, 25 days? Well, you do the maths. You don't need to save that many hours to get the entire equivalent of your annual leave back. And so you're effectively doubling up, which is huge. Now, talking of which, outsourcing the day job. This is well, potentially a thorny one, but it's sort of changed quite a lot recently. Obviously, post the pandemic, and rather during the pandemic, we all got kind of used to working in rather different ways, some more than others. And for a lot of people, it involved kind of working from home, which was always a great opportunity for saving time. But let's start at the top. The first thing that comes to mind when it comes to outsourcing the day job is delegation. And you can delegate in any direction. You can delegate upwards if you want to. You can delegate sideways. As long as you do it with a smile and the right attitude, the right approach, delegation is infinitely possible. So don't fall into that trap of thinking, do you know what, I might as well do it myself, because that's so common. It's like, well, yeah, I'd have to teach somebody to do it, and they won't do it as good as me. So, I won't do it. Yeah. So, but guess what? It probably doesn't need doing as well as you do it anyway. And actually, within a couple of times that I got the hang of it, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You concentrate on the important stuff. Be critical of jobs that don't need doing. So, in other words, have an eye out for them. So many jobs, particularly in corporate life, I found back in the day when I was in corporate land, they just get done because somebody important at some point said, oh, they needed doing. But actually, they've just always been done that way. No one actually is going to pay a blind bit of notice if they don't get done. Easy way of finding out, don't do it and see what happens. If nobody notices, then you're on to a winner. But there's always ways of kind of modifying that, moving it from something that's done all the time, regularly, to something that's done on demand, that sort of thing. It's that on request thing is really powerful, because what you're doing is you're not refusing to do it. You're just saying, okay, if you want it, just order it, just a quick email once a month, just tell me and I'll do it. And that way you really work out whether they're just sort of hanging on to a principle, you're not, you jolly well got to produce it, or whether they actually need it. Because if they've got to do some work to procure it, then yeah, you'll soon find out. The other thing that is particularly powerful in every walk of life, frankly, but particularly at work, I think, if you've got a day job, is perfection. It is generally highly overrated. If you're a perfectionist, I share your pain. It's really painful, but you really struggle to let something kind of go out the door without it meeting your stringent standards of quality. But the reality is they don't need to. Yes, everybody thinks it's brilliant. Everybody thinks you're brilliant. Everybody thinks, goodness me, nobody could do it better than that. But the reality is we can spend literally half of the time just doing the last 20% of the job. So we've already got it to 80%. Well, actually, send it out at 80%, and then you'll get the time back again to do two jobs. You'll be doing two jobs at 80% rather than one job at 100. It's much more efficient and effective. You can flex that as needs be. There are some jobs that do need to be perfect, but as I said, perfection is definitely overrated. Work from home, as I said, that's something that's happened and has become much more in play recently. Clearly, it's about, this isn't advocating cheating on your employer, absolutely not. But where you've got an opportunity to work from home, it is so much more efficient because you're just avoiding the commute. It's just, and it's not just the commute, it's the fact that we tend to, we doll ourselves up to go to work, get smart, and actually, okay, we might have to do some video calls. That's great. But in a nice way, nobody can smell you on a video call. Apple haven't invented that yet. So as long as you look presentable, there are certain things you don't necessarily need to go through that whole rigmarole to be able to work from home. And I think a lot of people have taken advantage of that and enjoyed the fact that it's just a much more kind of relaxed and less stressful way of getting to work than the whole thing, getting ready, getting up, getting ready, getting in the car or wherever on the commuting into work. Another one, don't work extra hours. This is something that happens a lot in the property development world, unfortunately, and it's very sad. But people do tend to work um, kind of long hours, and it's kind of crazy. You typically not getting paid for it. We tend to think that that's making us look good. The reality is this classic imposter syndrome. So I would advocate if your hours are 9 to 5, leave at 5. The work will miraculously get done. Um, like it does when you go on holiday. That's my favorite analogy. You go on holiday, and guess what? The day before, you've got to leave at a certain time, and everything gets done. It's amazing. And then when you come back from holiday, the world didn't collapse, and it's because that day before you were really good at delegating, working out what needs to be done, what doesn't need to be done, and the stuff that does need to be done, you did it quickly. But guess what? Do that every day, you'll finish at 5. Easy. Now, there's a few ideas about how you can what you can outsource. I want to introduce you the gig economy. You may be familiar with it, but the principle here in the gig economy is that there are people out there who are for hire. So people that can work for you, not as employees, but they are people whose resource you can hire. They're based all over the world. You could either get people in this country or anywhere overseas. And overseas often works is very cost effective because the hourly rate in other countries, so for example, places like India and so on, the hourly rate is lower because of the relative cost of living is lower. So it's great money for them, but it's relatively inexpensive for us. So that virtual assistant principle, that idea of hiring somebody that you can use on demand, and it can either be for specific jobs, and as I mentioned, creating a website, creating a logo, designing your business cards, those sort of specific tasks that we have that can be quite handy for those. Or literally, you can hire people as an assistant. You can hire technical people as well. So if you want somebody, I remember we had a student who hired an Indian architect to do some of the work in assessing some of their floor plans and some of their projects. So it was good money for the architect, but it was a lot cheaper than an architect over here, and yet they were very more than capable of doing the work. The other thing that happens if you go overseas is that they can do the work overnight, so it'd be ready for you in the morning. So you're kind of getting almost in a way a bit of a 24-hour business going on. So the way it works, if you do a Google search for gig, so GIG economy platforms, I'm not going to recommend any specifically. You'll be able to do your due diligence, but some platforms are, as I said, are kind of more geared for task-based outsourcing. They're going to like design a logo for this price. Others are more geared for hiring a resource on an ongoing basis, like a virtual assistant. There's going to be some crossover. So yeah, do your research to see what platform is going to work best for you. The things you need to think about when hiring somebody, how important are language skills? Will they be speaking to people and representing your business, making appointments? Do a test, make sure, where they say fluent, make sure it is fluent, make sure their language skills are good enough. Also, make sure you've got a budget. So, as I said, overseas is going to be cheaper, but you may prefer to have a native speaker in the same time zone as you, depending on what it is that you're looking to do. Be more expensive, but it's still freeing up your time. Do you want an ongoing resource like a virtual assistant or just somebody to do that specific task? And also then how to get the best people. So follow the advice on each platform. They've got loads of frequently asked questions on there and instructions on how to do it. And in my experience, they're all, not surprisingly, really, really well done. They're going to, what I would recommend is the best way to do it is to draft a job description for what you want doing and then putting it out there on the platform. Don't bother trying to assess loads of different CVs. It's too time consuming. Just put a job out there and see what comes back. Make sure you explain the job or role properly and also how it fits into your organization or business. I mean, we want somebody to think they're joining a bit of a team here. They're part of the business. It's not just there's some sort of manual laborer that's worthless to your organization. There's somebody that's actually going to be performing a task of value. And as a result, you should big up your business, bring it to life for them so that they understand how important what they're doing is for your business. Now, there's a number of organizations out there that also offer kind of curated services for virtual assistants. In other words, you can approach them and they will find a VA for you. you could certainly try that. But there's a whole range of options out there in terms of finding this resource. There we go. Wow. So that was outsourcing. So just about half an hour. We just about managed to squeeze it in. I hope that maybe made you think about whether there's anything in your world that you could outsource. And obviously, the nice bit is to think what you could spend all that lovely time on if you got some of it back. I'm sure there's loads of things, and it probably isn't Tetris. But yeah, by all means, let us know in the chat if you've had any great idea as to what you spend your time on. That's just about it for me here on this episode. As ever, it really would be great to hear what you think. So do put any comments below. Love to hear your thoughts. And of course, as ever, if you're interested in finding out more about small scale property development, we've put together a free pre-recorded training session, which tells you what it's all about, how you get into it. The link for that is propertyceo.co.uk/SFR, where SFR stands for six-figure roadmap. So basically, we're showing you how it's possible to make six-figure profits from those smaller development projects. If the link doesn't work for whatever reason, then do get in touch. support@propertyceo.co.uk. We generally always have some free training opportunities available. So knock on that door, and we will do our very best to support you. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode of Open Door. If you did, it would certainly mean a lot to us if you hit the good old like button. And of course, if you hit subscribe, all those extremely wonderful people at YouTube will make sure that you get alerted each time a new Open Door episode is released. That's all from me. Look forward to seeing you again very soon. Take care.